right.
Got this?
We picked a beautiful day.
We sure did.
For our first official episode of our Way of Life video series at the Deer Hunter Project. It is probably 28 degrees, sleeting, snowing. You brought a nice shade of Ohio gray down to Virginia with you.
I try to aim to please with everything I do.
Not appreciative of that, appreciative of everything else you do for me and my family. You can keep the cold darkness up in the north where you're from.
So what are we talking about today?
Today, we're going to talk about, and I think it's fitting given the time of year, given the type of property, we're on my property today in Virginia, which is mostly forested timber. I thought it was only fitting for us to jump into some TSI.
Well, timber stand improvement.
Yeah.
Yes. As Cody was just talking about, it is absolutely the best time of year to do that. January, February into March.
Yeah.
And it's a great time to get out there with some chainsaws. It's a great time to get out there and just learn your property.
Yeah.
You can get a lot done by walking around. But yeah, timber stand improvement.
Yeah, we're going to give an overview of what TSI is, and I think to really get that started. If I were to ask you, what is TSI? What is timber stand improvement to you? How would you explain that to somebody who is unfamiliar with the concept?
That's a very good question, Mr. Altizer. No, timber stand improvement, it's really nothing more than, going through your woodland environment and picking out the best trees. And that basically is releasing other trees for, timber / wildlife value.
Yeah.
Depending on what you're trying to accomplish, whether it's wildlife, you pick and choose differently. And if it's more for timber, you pick and choose differently. And we'll talk about that. But yeah, just picking the better trees, that's the quick and dirty version of it. But it changes the overall composition of your woodlands.
Yeah.
It helps the health of your woodlands. And I keep saying woodland, and those woodland forests, they're actually, they're almost a threatened species, if you will.
They're in decline.
Because we are definitely managing our woodland habitats, not necessarily incorrectly, but we're just not managing like we should.
Yeah.
And the woodland type of environments are slim pickings, where it's a tree and it's a lot of space and another tree where you can get some grasses and forbs through. And doing timber stand improvement, you can at least get that canopy open, that closed canopy open, by doing some timber stand improvement.
Yeah, and I think before start practicing TSI in whatever form or fashion on your property, timber stand improvement, Eric kind of touched on it. It can be two things, and before you decide how you're going to manage your timber, you have to decide what you're managing your timber for. What do you value? And you can manage timber for timber value, which that's a separate type of management than managing it for wildlife. When you're putting a higher value on timber, more boards per foot, you want taller, straighter trees. Yeah. More of what we're going to discuss and what we're going to emphasize and what we value more on our property, wildlife is our primary focus, and timber value is secondary. So we want what Eric kind of talked about. We want bigger trees, bigger mass producing trees, more early successional habitat, and there are a lot of different ways that we can accomplish that, which is pretty exciting.
It is
for somebody like you and I who like to run a saw and get out this time of year and do the work. And you're almost infinite in how you can create that early successional habitat through timber stand improvement. And we're going to talk about some of those techniques, but somebody who is unfamiliar with practicing TSI, they're like, I have this new piece of property and I want to manage it for wildlife. It's heavily timbered. How can I improve the quality of that stand for wildlife?
That's a very good question again. We should probably answer it out in the field.
Yeah.
So how about we go out there, hold that thought.
Got it.
Hold that thought. We'll get out there and we're going to talk about all this stuff. But I want to emphasize, and we're going to probably beat this horse to death, is that when it comes to timber, when it comes to the wildlife aspect of it, you and I can do this. But when you're talking about timber aspect of things, when you're trying to, create some dollars and put some money in your pocket, always consult a certified forester, somebody that has some knowledge on what the market is and all that stuff. So, wildlife is one thing.
Yeah.
You could really screw up your woods if you're looking for dollars. So there's something, a little food for thought. So let's get after it, man.
So we're out in the timber and we picked this spot. Why?
Well, the goal on this piece of property, right? And that's one thing that we need to make sure, like, it's what's your goal? What are you trying to achieve on this piece? And for a lot of us for today, let's talk about wildlife. So one thing on this section of property is that there's a little bit of oak, okay? But there's a lot of pole, like in the sense of poplar and stuff that's competing against that. So what we're going to do is pick the best timber. In this case, what we're trying to do is manage for oak. You know, we're not necessarily going to be like a crop tree release, but we're going to be girdling, cutting, marking. So what we would do is, you know, take some paint and just mark, you know, whatever color you want. Mark the trees that you're trying to protect, and then that way when you come or somebody else comes, you can, you know, get this stuff done.
It's actually kind of hard to believe that on this part of our property that oak is a lacking species, because this property was clear cut 25 years ago and the response was just almost all tulip poplar. Like you said, it's a lot of pole-sized timber poplar. But once we've identified the trees we want to keep, the oaks, they're kind of few and far between, but they are in here. They just need some help. How are we going to give them a leg up?
Oh, very easy. Well, it's like if you have some friends, never chainsaw by yourself, you know, and it's just never really a good idea. So if you have some friends, have some family members, you do some chainsaw work and just basically just give this tree, this oak tree, sun and room to grow. And then if you're by yourself, you know, you can do, especially with the size of the trees here, you can do a lot of hack and squirt, you can do a lot of double girdle and use some obviously herbicide to kill those trees. And what's really cool about this is that you're just not releasing an oak tree, you know, for timber or for wildlife value. When you sit there and do all this wildlife management, you know, the cutting, the double girdling, the hack and squirt, you're creating life. You're creating more, and we've talked about this before, is that the day that you cut stuff or do something, usually we think it's long term. You know, the end result is long term. No, wildlife is using it right out of the gate. You know, the forbs and browse that it's going to be getting promoted, the dead trees, the wildlife that's going to utilize the dead trees from, you know, woodpeckers. It's such an ecosystem that we never talk about, and it all stems from timber stand improvement. You know, it's really lacking throughout the country. I mean, we're losing our oak species because of it as well. That's
the thing. You mentioned it earlier, you know, how we're not managing timber incorrectly or poorly. We're actually just not even managing it. That's the missing element, is the lack of management. We've removed fire, we've removed disturbance off of the landscape, and that's part of what TSI is just reintroducing that type of disturbance. And whatever you're valuing most for us, it's wildlife. It's, you know, releasing crop trees, which of course puts more acorns on the forest floor during the fall. But I mean, there's so many cool different species that benefit from oak. Not just deer and turkeys and squirrels and bears plucking up an acorn during the fall. I mean, even this time of year, you think of an oak tree being dormant and not being of any value to wildlife, but like you dig a little deeper, and it's super beneficial.
Is it? Oak trees produce the most of all things, caterpillars. Of all the other trees, caterpillars. And this time of year, you said it really good. We think it's dormant, okay, the acorns are on the ground doing their thing, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But no, there's so much life going on. This oak tree is producing so much all the time. Caterpillars of all things, okay? Oak trees produce the most out of any tree amount of caterpillars. So why is that important? You know, it's the songbirds, warblers. Well, this time of year, it'd be the chickadees. It would be the tufted titmice, you know, a mouse. It's that. And the branches, if you ever look this up, these caterpillars look like branches, little tiny twigs. It is absolutely amazing. And when you do go into oak woods, you will see the chickadees, you will see the titmice and stuff like that. It is so cool. Absolutely amazing. The value of managing this timber, especially oaks, for sure. And to take it a step further, you know, we do timber stand improvement,
And talk about a crop tree release and for wildlife, we want more branching. We want this tree to have a bigger crown. Bigger crown means more acorns. If you want to apply it to the songbirds and caterpillars, more branches means more caterpillars. And like you said, you'll see that response from the songbirds.
Yeah.
Well, that's up in the air.
Yeah.
Like, think what about all the life like right underneath our feet?
It is so amazing. We're so used to whitetail deer.
Yeah.
And wild, some turkeys, some of us dabble in that. But it is like, I'm like a kid in a candy store when I learn all this new stuff about oak trees and actually timber stand improvement, how to make this the best it possibly can for the tree itself and then for the animals that utilize it. But you said underneath, right now, there's a lot of, even though there's not a lot of oak, there's some oak litter on the ground, right? A lot of oak leaves and stuff like that. Just the litter alone is so important. Oak leaf litter. I mean, this oak tree right here, it's just an oak tree amongst a bunch of other trees, but these oak trees, it captures a lot of CO2.
Yeah.
It manages the litter, manages erosion, and it controls the moisture. There's so many benefits, but right underneath our feet, okay, in this leaf litter, there's like 70 species of moths alone that utilize oak leaf litter. 70.
Yeah.
It's absolutely incredible. And underneath our feet, there is actually more wildlife underneath our feet than it is above ground.
Oh yeah,
isn't that neat?
That's so cool.
I mean, we don't even think of it. You kick this leaf litter, and I believe it's just like a little metric area, and I don't know what these things are, but like there's like over 1 million nematodes in just a little area.
You don't know what a nematode?
I'm not a nematode. I don't know what it is, man. But there's just over millions of, not species, but the amount of animals just from the ground and the utilization, and it all comes from an oak tree.
Yeah.
That's why we manage for timber stand improvement.
Yeah.
Because we are producing, the acorns that we are, as deer managers, are after. It does produce. It quickly produces branching.
Yeah.
It quickly produces those acorns that we're after and what they're after. But you're doing so much more for wildlife.
Yeah.
Isn't that neat?
That's what I enjoy most about timber stand improvement and TSI and chainsaw work is the response and the benefits are immediate.
Yes.
But they're immediate and they're long term.
Yeah.
And that's really what wildlife management and conservation even it's all about. It's about making a difference now and a sustainable difference long term. Like these poplars around here, if we decided to cut them completely down, tonight there'd be deer in here.
Munching away.
We're in the middle of a cold, hard winter. That is an immediate food source for whitetail deer.
Absolutely.
This spring, it's going to start branching out. This fall, more acorns for game and non-game species, and then the benefits of all the life underneath our feet, and then all the life up in the top of the trees.
Yeah.
All from just doing a little sweat equity with your chainsaw.
Yeah, timber stand improvement is probably one of the easiest things that you can do for your property and for wildlife, and then obviously the timber value as well.
Yeah.
You don't want to go in there and just whack and stack everything that's there that's not an oak tree.
Yeah.
You do want to keep maples. Why? Because of the buds. This time of year, squirrels utilize that. So you want to diversify. You just don't want necessarily a mass type thing. You do want some poplars. You do want some aspen of all things because of grouse. Just think outside the box, and wildlife does utilize it. You can do your deer management and then produce some great quality wildlife habitat alongside it.
Yeah, one thing that bothers me is people use the term junk trees, which I'm pretty sure I've said it before.
Yeah, we all said it.
Yeah, everybody said it, but every tree has value, and when you have a stand, you want a diversity of trees.
Yes.
You want an equal distribution of species throughout a timber stand, and that's what timber stand improvement accomplishes.
Yeah, you're just basically playing judge and jury of who gets this, to stay and who doesn't get to. I mean, that's a kind of rough way of saying it, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
And our forests are definitely hurting, throughout the country, especially the oak. I think there's, I believe, 28 oak trees throughout the whole country, North America, that are actually threatened.
Wow.
Think about that. Yeah. And it's all because, people are afraid to cut trees down, fire suppression and everything else. Smokey Bear is probably the best marketing tool in the history of this country.
Yeah.
It's amazing what that bear has done
Right.
to prevent control burns and stuff. No one likes wildfires and everything like that, but control burning, it really does help out oak regeneration and stuff like that. You know, that's timber stand improvement too.
Oh yeah.
You know, doing control burns and stuff. There's many things. There's herbicide, there's cutting, and diversify those cuts, as we mentioned. Yeah. So, but yeah, you talked about, like, you know, we did some cutting earlier today. You know, it's amazing. You know, I've been doing this a very long time. You've been doing it a long time as well. You know, I cut a poplar down between two oak trees, and the satisfaction that I got, that I knew that I did something. I'm 48 years old. It's like I was like a little kid. Like, I did something for wildlife. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So.
Well, we talked about it, which I enjoy doing, but now it's time to go do it, which I actually enjoy doing a little bit
See,
more.
I checked the chainsaw, and it really doesn't fit me.
No?
It doesn't fit me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be the hack and squirt guy.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it doesn't fit. No, it is, you know, timber stand improvement, we've talked about it. It's a great time of year to get out there and do this, you know, February, March, January, and going backwards. But no, it is a great time to get out there. This is supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
I know Cody, he likes killing Atlantis. That's his therapy. We all love tractor therapy, and there's chainsaw therapy.
Yeah.
This is therapeutic for sure, and you're doing something great for wildlife.
Yeah. And more than anything, before you fire up the saw this time of year, running the chainsaw, whether you're doing timber stand improvement or just cutting firewood, be safe more than anything else. Wear your helmet, eye protection, gloves, chaps, ear protection if your helmet doesn't have ear muffs. PPE, you're never too cool for PPE. Your family's counting on you to come home. No tree is worth not coming home over. So
Absolutely.
Be safe more than anything else, but beyond that, have a good time. This is fun.
Yeah. Supposed to be fun.
It is fun.
And then it is for us. I'm sure it is for you. Wildlife. It's our way of life. Here, go long. I got it.